It was a sound that didn't belong. James lay rigid in his bed, eyes wide open in the oppressive darkness of his room, straining his ears. The house had settled into its usual late-night quiet an hour ago, a symphony of gentle creaks and the distant hum of the refrigerator. But this was new, a faint, almost imperceptible scratching like a single fingernail being drawn slowly across wood. It came from directly above, from the attic. He told himself it was just a mouse or a tree branch scraping against the roof in the wind. He rolled over, pulling the covers tighter around his neck, determined to ignore it and find sleep. But the sound didn't stop. It grew, evolving from a delicate scratch into a persistent grating scrape. It was heavier now, more deliberate. The rhythmic drag scrape echoed in the stillness, suggesting something of considerable weight moving with a slow, laborious effort across the attic floorboards. A cold knot of dread tightened in James's stomach. This was no mouse. He imagined splintered wood, the rough texture of the old planks being gouged by something determined. A fine, pale dust, almost invisible in the gloom, began to drift down from the ceiling, catching the sliver of moonlight that pierced the blinds. It settled on his face, tasting of chalk and age, a ghostly reminder of the disturbance above. The dragging stopped, replaced by a heavy, resonant thud that seemed to shake the entire frame of the house. Silence returned, but it was a predatory, watchful silence that was far worse than the noise it replaced. James held his breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. His gaze was locked on the plaster ceiling directly over his bed. A small dark spot appeared, no bigger than a coin. He watched, mesmerized with horror, as the spot began to expand, its edges bleeding outward in a growing circle of damp, ugly brown. It looked wet, viscous. The plaster, saturated and heavy, started to sag. It bulged downward, stretching like skin, the smooth white surface distorting into an unnatural, grotesque shape. It was the impression of something immense, something with a contour that was hideously not human, pressing its weight down, testing the limits of the structure. Thin, spidery cracks radiated from the center of the bulging mass. A low groan, the sound of stressed timber and surrendering plaster, filled the room. The cracks widened with an audible splitting sound, and the dark, wet stain began to drip a thick black liquid onto his pristine white duvet. The bulge descended further, the inhuman shape becoming terrifyingly distinct, its immense pressure undeniable. Then came the final deafening crack, a sound like thunder and breaking bones. With an explosive rupture, the ceiling gave way and the world above him came rushing down.